Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric. Last year, I visited 10 theme parks in the US, the UK, and Austria. And in this video, I am ranking them all. I had a great time at all of them, and the one caveat here is that I am ranking the experiences I personally had. It's entirely based on what I did at the park, and not the objective best top 10. It's just talking about how much fun I had at the parks, and the things that you would enjoy too if you visited them. With all that out of the way, let's begin. Number 10 is Chessington World of Adventures in the UK. This one is unfortunately last place, but I didn't really spend a lot of time there. I had to squeeze the 4 UK parks I went to into 3 days, and this one kinda got the short end of the stick to an extent. I got on the 3 main roller coasters, and I've said before that I love Vampire. Vampire is one of my favorite roller coasters in the entire nation, so that was a lot of fun. The park looks very nice. I think the Jumanji area actually works very well theming-wise, and it all in all is just a very enjoyable one. I didn't get a great feel for the rides. I will say I don't think operations are exactly the park's strong suit, and capacity is definitely a pretty big issue, especially given how popular this one seems to be with families. But overall, it is an enjoyable park, just not one that I have as much to say about because I didn't spend as much time there. Number 9, Legoland Windsor in the UK. This one might be the nostalgia talking. I grew up near Legoland, Florida, and I love that park quite a lot. This one, I think, is very similar in quality overall. There are things it does better. For example, I think visually, this is the nicer park. The architecture is generally more interesting. The entrance plaza being an overlook of Windsor Castle and the surrounding area is gorgeous. And the terrain usage is quite fantastic. In terms of rides, this one has some highlights. LEGO Minifigure Speedway is a great family coaster, and probably my favorite ride at any Legoland park I've been to. And there's a strong variety of non-roller coasters that are great for all ages. Most notably, I love the water ride Pirate Falls Treasure Quest, the Flying Theater Flight of the Sky Lion, and the Vekoma Madhouse Haunted House Monster Party. You also have the staples of other Legoland parks. That is all well and good. Overall, the park has many LEGO features, is quite gorgeous as a whole, but the key thing is that it is for the younger audience. It's very much a family park, with most of the rides being targeted toward kids, so if you're a roller coaster enthusiast watching this video, you probably will never go to Legoland Windsor, but if it potentially piques your interest, definitely check it out. It is an enjoyable park as a whole. Number 8, Thorpe Park in the UK. The UK parks generally did not play super well, but once again, Thorpe was unfortunately hindered by the amount of time that I was able to give it. I got on 4 roller coasters of the park: Stealth, Colossus, Saw the Ride, and most notably, Hyperia. The other 3 coasters were no doubt great, all in my top 10 in the UK, but Hyperia is not only my favorite coaster in the UK, but was a top 3 new roller coaster I got on last year. It has some of the best elements of any roller coaster, and I've talked about that a lot before. In addition to the great roller coasters, this park has some notable strengths. Compared to other UK parks, this felt more like a US theme park. It's not as focused on theming, but it is still better in the theming regard than a lot of US parks, primarily because the themes themselves are so interesting. Many of the rides are themed to horror, with one of them literally being Saw the Ride. So it adds a different kind of thrill that many roller coasters in the US don't really have. In addition to all that, this park is very well run. It was quite crowded when I went, but the operations were fantastic all around, so the lines were still moving even though they were pretty long. All in all, I can't say much else about this one, but I would love to go back for a full experience, and it was easily my second favorite park in the UK, even if it did kind of rank low overall. Number 7, Kennywood in Pennsylvania. Kennywood is a classic. It is a very old park, having opened in the 19th century, and also having several old roller coasters. 3 of them are Ace Coaster landmarks. I don't think I've been to any park that has that many. And those rides are all very fun. The classic charm of the park is super enjoyable. Just walking around this place, it's so lively, and I really just love the atmosphere of Kennywood. It feels like a country fair to an extent, but with attractions that you wouldn't typically get at a place like that. Most notably, Phantom's Revenge, which is my favorite hypercoaster I got on of the year, even better than Hyperia. So my second favorite new roller coaster I got on. It is a fantastic ride. The way it dives into a ravine is utterly unbelievable, and even if the elements are not necessarily as standout as the Hyperia ones, it is an even more unhinged ride. The setting of the park is also just gorgeous. It's on a bit of a hill, on a ravine, so if you go in the upper parking lot, you have a great overlook of the park before you even enter. And there are so many other great things at Kennywood that I don't typically appreciate as much in parks, but they were fantastic here. Most notably, the unique walkthrough attraction Noah's Ark was an absolute blast. And the potato patch fries are a must if you go here. I'm not typically much of a foodie at theme parks, I typically would eat outside the park, but these were worth getting. Overall, Kennywood is just a super fun time. You have one of the best roller coasters ever at the park, and supporting that is just a great charming atmosphere that you could spend many days at without getting tired of. Number 6, SeaWorld Orlando in Florida. This is a park that I should have gone to more often, frankly. I don't live that far from it, but it had been 7 years since I last went, and I was actually very impressed going back to the park. The lineup of B&M roller coasters it has is unbelievable. B&M is my personal favorite coaster manufacturer, and I love all of the ones they have here. Mako, Manta, Pipeline, and Kraken are all phenomenal in their own unique ways, making possibly the best collection of B&Ms at any theme park I've been to. In addition to that, you have the main theme of the park, that being the sea. The park looks gorgeous, and I think that waterfront in the center, the fact that you can go on a bridge in the middle of it and see several of the roller coasters from it, is fantastic. Roller coasters to me are very photogenic in general, and having that waterfront to service them only makes it better. So walking around this place, it's beautiful, very well themed, among the strongest looking parks in the US frankly. Not top tier, but pretty close. And add that with the great roller coasters, and you definitely have a fantastic experience. I had a great time at SeaWorld, and while it had been a very long time since I went, this makes me think I should go back more often. Number 5, Wiener Prater in Vienna, Austria. Wiener Prater is pretty much the ultimate carnival. Most of the rides are very much temporary. They go there sometimes, they move out, in and out, and so on and so forth. I spent 2 different nights here. It was gonna be just one, but it was too much fun for me to pass up again. And I will be making a full video on it soon. Simply put, the roller coasters I got on were not major. They were family coasters, but it's the flat rides that made this place unforgettable to me. All of them were fantastic, but 2 in particular are possibly the best flat rides I've ever done, and way better than the majority of roller coasters. I think they are likely in the top 5 new rides I got on, and that is insane. The most notable ones I'm talking about are Ecstasy and Black Mamba. Both very different experiences, and I can't wait to talk about them more. But overall, Prater is a super fun one to walk around if you enjoy that carnival atmosphere, and it is a very lively and enjoyable place in Vienna, Austria, so you already have a beautiful setting, and when you're on the taller rides you get a great view of the city. So I love Prater, and even though I probably won't get a chance to go back in the summer and get on more of the rides because many were closed when I went, I would love that opportunity if I could get it. Number 4, Six Flags Over Texas in Texas. This one I went to during the solar eclipse, and that was a very fun experience. The park itself I've always enjoyed. I consider its coaster lineup to be very underrated, and generally the operations are among the strongest I've experienced at any Six Flags park. You just have a very stacked lineup. Whether it be New Texas Giant, Mr. Freeze, Titan, Runaway Mountain, Shockwave, Batman the Ride, Runaway Mine Train, the many flat rides, the list goes on. It is a fantastic lineup, one of the most complete at any Six Flags park. Many say it lacks a standout roller coaster, but for me, New Texas Giant has always been a standout ride, one of my personal favorite coasters, and that remains the case even now. It still has layout flaws. I still found myself getting a little bit lost on my most recent visit, especially in the tighter left half of the park, where the areas are no doubt well themed, but the way certain rides are sectioned off is just very bizarre. It's not the worst layout in history, but it does make the experience a little confusing at points. But still, just walking around this park, you're enjoying one of the nicest looking Six Flags parks, the original in fact, and no doubt, a great park full of great rides. Definitely one of my favorites I went to last year. Number 3 is Busch Gardens Tampa Bay in Florida. This is my home park. I have been many times, and I am judging this list solely off of my most recent visits, those being the 2 or 3 that I had in 2024. And I had a great time. No doubt, this park has had some pretty major issues, primarily post Iron Gwazi releasing. Iron Gwazi is a great roller coaster. As a matter of fact, it's my favorite roller coaster. It's number 1, so pretty great start for the park. But, in addition to Iron Gwazi, there have been many issues with the park, one primarily related to that ride, that being the operations. Many of the rides dispatch so slowly, so lines can build up really fast on many days. And it's bizarre because the rides definitely have a stronger capacity, but they just don't utilize that very well. And that has been a pretty big issue for a while at the park. Many people can agree on that, and many have gone as far to say the park is no longer one of the great US parks because of the operations. And I do respect that view. Additionally, it feels like a lot of stuff is sort of under renovation right now. A lot of areas are often closed off. Even the kangaroos were closed off on one of my visits. That was crazy to me. But hopefully, some new stuff will be coming soon. I'm excited to see what the Jungala replacement land ends up being like. But there was still plenty to enjoy on my most recent visits. Phoenix Rising's their new family coaster, and that was a fantastic replacement for Sand Serpent. Unfortunately, we did have to lose Scorpion in the same year. And Scorpion was my first roller coaster, so that one always stung a little bit. But overall, the park still has the great animal experiences, the excellent roller coasters, the beautiful appearance in most of the park, and while we have been seeing a lot of changes, some for the worse overall when it comes to guest experience, some changes have been good, and hopefully the current ones are paving the way for a stronger 2025, 2026, and so forth. Number 2, Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. Hershey Park was seriously close to being number 1. In many ways, it probably should be. Based on the ride lineup, I think this is the best park that I went to in 2024. You have Wildcats Revenge, the best new roller coaster I got on last year. I like it almost as much as Iron Gwazi, and that is a very high bar. On top of that, you have Candymonium, the great hypercoaster, Stormrunner, fantastic launch coaster, Fahrenheit, a very unique ride, Skyrush, it's Skyrush, and a very strong supporting lineup of 14 total roller coasters, making for one of the strongest and most complete coaster lineups in the nation. Additionally, I got on some rides I had not done previously, and I had a great time with those. I won't discuss the water park much, but I did get on Breaker's Edge water coaster, and that was one of my favorites I've done in terms of water park rides. More notably, I loved the monorail. I had not done the monorail last time, but it really did help me realize just how great slow rides can be. I do tend to appreciate slower train rides and transportation type things in parks, and this one is no exception. It's so much fun to go outside of the park, get a little bit of the tour of actual Hershey, Pennsylvania, and that's great. You also have some very fun smaller flat rides here. They don't seem as grand as the coasters, but rides like Howler can be just as fun. There are some issues here. Like with Busch Gardens Tampa, operations are not a strong suit here. I would say they were overall better for sure, but outside of Wildcats Revenge, they were all moving somewhat slowly. And I think pretty much every UK park I went to was superior in that regard. So there are some major dampeners in the experience, but I was able to get more than enough out of my time at Hershey Park. I'll leave it at that. Hershey simply has the best rides, and rides are what I look for in a park, primarily. So as a whole, Hershey was definitely a serious contender for number 1. It was definitely my second favorite experience I had at a park last year, and that is why it made number 2. Number 1, Alton Towers in the UK. My day at Alton Towers was one of my favorite days of the entire year. It was simply perfect. The ride lineup here is awesome. The best roller coaster is Nemesis Reborn, an inverted coaster that would not be super high up per se on my overall list of new attractions because it would not be the #1 coaster at Hershey or Busch Gardens Tampa. It would probably be number 3 at both, in fact. However, Alton Towers is the one park, really, on this list where my prioritization of rides has to take a back seat. The ride lineup is great. You have several strong roller coasters, Battle Galleons being a super fun water ride, and many other notable ones to have. But what makes this park for me is that it is one of the most beautiful I've ever been to. Easily the most beautiful I went to in 2024. From the real-life castle, to the Great Lake, to the dark forest, the gardens, the variety of different themes, the haunted house area. I could go on, and I already have in a separate review. But Alton Towers is simply one of the most beautiful parks I've ever been to in every regard. The roller coasters from start to finish look great and have awesome themes. I mentioned the Thorpe Park themes being unique. These take those themes to a different level, with some of the most complete overall stories I've seen on any roller coaster. Truly universal level in a lot of ways. Operation-wise, unbelievable. Nemesis Reborn's line looked massive both times I got in it, but it flew, and I was on in 20 minutes flat both times. Alton Towers really does everything right. If you like just walking around at theme parks, it's one of the best you can ever go to. If you like rides, it delivers in every regard. If you look for great management and operations, this park was definitely the best I experienced last year. Overall, Alton Towers is kind of perfect. Definitely one of my favorite parks I've ever been to, based solely on that one day. That one day was glorious, and Alton Towers is simply the best amusement park I visited in 2024. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below what parks you visited last year. Subscribe for more theme park videos. I'll see you next time.